Welcome to Rhythms and Strum Patterns number 4, part 1 of 2. The rhythm chosen for this video is the 16th note rhythm. So the idea of 16th notes is that we have 4-to-1 ratio. A 4-to-1 ratio means that we have 4 things happening inside the beat. So we have 4 actions to every one beat. So for every beat we get, we have 4 inside of that. Everything is equally spaced. The way we count the rhythm is 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to see in the score in a second that everything is deliberately played slowly because there's a lot packed into the beat. That's the thing that we're keeping track of. And there's only 3 different rhythms that we're going to use for this video. We have the full 16th note grouping, which is what I just played. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 things inside the beat. And then we break up that beat into other bits of the grouping of 16th notes. We take away a 16th note, and we also use the tie. The idea of a tie is that it connects 2 sounds of the same chord or same note, and that increases the spacing between when the next event happens. So without further ado, let's go right into the score. We have all our rhythms laid out, full grouping of 16th notes, 4 measures of the 16th note grouping as a full grouping. Measures 1 through 4 have the basic grouping, so I'm going to let it play and you can hear it. Nice and slow. Okay, so that's the first 4 bars that you get. In the right-hand part, we have all these down and up movements here. The sort of, looks like a table. That's a down strum. The V is the up strum. We have our down and ups going through here. Same thing in measure 2. It just continues on through. When you get to measure 6, after you repeat the first 4 bars, measure 1, by the way, is a pickup note. Then you get into the first 4 bars. So that's what you heard at the beginning. The click track gets you all set up for the rhythm that you're going to have. So the click is actually clicking at a quarter note, and then you have the 16th note grouping right after that. And then when you get to measure 6, as we were just talking about, the rhythm changes a little bit. We have a different grouping. We have an 8th note and 2 16th notes after it. So what that does, it removes the second 16th note that you would have. So when you go back to the A sus2 chord in the beginning, we have this part right here taken out. Okay, so that's going to be the thing that changes in the rhythm, is what's being deleted. That's going to be the second 16th note. So if I play from this measure, you'll hear how that sounds with the tie put in. What's nice about the score and the tie, the way it's reflected in the score, is that we have a little bracket right around this part right here that I'm circling. That's going to be your right hand moving down, but you're not going to hit any strings. That's the thing with ties that's a little tricky, is that you're not going to be hitting the strings, but you make the right hand motion downward towards the floor, and then you catch it. You catch the actual chord sound on the up strum, which in the count is going to be the E and of beat number 2. So when you get to this measure, it's 1 and E and you're going to hear that in just a second. Here it comes. Okay, so that's the idea with the rhythm. You can hear how that drastically changes things. It gives you that little bit of an extra sustain to the chord, obviously. That's what the ties do. They actually add sustain, and they happen within the beat. They can happen within the same beat grouping, like the 16th notes. I could tie any note I want to. Typically, we don't. We actually do the tie between beats. But for now, you can hear that change in the grouping. You can hear the 8th, 2 16th notes right after 1 and If you were to have a hard time with the tie, negotiating the tie, how it works, you could simply remove it. Then you would have 1 and 2E and 3E and 4E and I want to include the tie here in this particular setup because it just sounds interesting. And it's nice to get used to the tie. If you haven't been exposed to the tie before, it's good to check it out. So when you go through that tie motion, you can see how my hand went down right here. 1 and 2. So the hand's moving down, but I'm not hitting any strings. I'll do even slower, and I'll actually turn my guitar a little bit. See that move right there? That 1 down strum, but you hear the chord sustaining. There's nothing happening there. That's the idea of the tie. It really gives you that extra little space. So if you're having a hard time with the tie, this is a great sort of spot to kind of check out. I'm going to do just the A sus2 chord here, and I'm going to count it out. 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2, E and 3, E and 4, E and 1 and 2. E and 3, E and 4, E and when all else fails, mute the strings and isolate the rhythm. Okay, 1 and tie, E and 3, E and 4, E and 1 and 2, E and 3, E and 4, E and if you're having trouble with the tie, but you remove the tie, you get this 1 and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and or you can go back to the very beginning and do the full grouping of 16th notes and then practice taking out the second 16th note of beat 1. So you have 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and take away the second 16th note of beat 1, 1 and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and okay. So if you're having trouble even with beat 1 in that measure, if I go back to the score, you can simply just take things out, put them back in. Okay, so there's a lot of options here. So if you go back to measure 1, you could take this one 16th note out, and that results in measure 6, where you have the 16th note taken out, right? It would fit right in here, but it's gone now. So when you go to count it, 1 E and here it's 1 and so the E part's gone. And then again with the tie, going back to the tie discussion, if you're having trouble negotiating the tie, simply get rid of it. Get rid of the bracket right around here, and you would actually play this part. You would have 1 and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and so that's how you negotiate ties. If you move on to the next grouping in measure 10, right over here, back to the beginning chord, A sus2, and you're going to hear these 4 bars repeat, which will be the last 4 bars of this particular lesson. And I have a 2-pager here, so it's going to go over to this side. you can hear even in this particular part, the way that feels. There's no tie this time, but now we have the third 16th note missing from beat 1 to measure 11, measure 12, and then of course ultimately at the end measure 13. So it's an odd numbered score here because we have the first measure being the pickup measure, giving us the tempo and the click. So when you get to measure 10, it's 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E, and that's really, really cool. You can hear how that feels. It feels different. And also, as another caveat to all this, you could take each one of these rhythms, like the tied rhythm here, we can actually make that a pattern. So you could have measure 6, for instance, 1 and E, and then you get to beat 3. You can do the exact same thing. This grouping right here, you can take this part and move it into beat number 3, and you have a pattern within the same measure of 1 and E and 3 and E, and if you keep the tie in there, that's how it's going to feel, you know. So beat 1 and 2, if I was to go back to this measure, that 1 and E, and that could be a pattern in and of itself. There's lots of options again for this stuff, but that's something you would do to apply what you learned from this particular score. You can take it and do whatever you want with it. Again, all this stuff is foundational. So once you get the feel for the rhythms, you have carte blanche to do whatever you want with them. So that's the idea. So when you get to measure 10, the rhythm changes yet again. 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and so on. So that's how it's going to feel when you count it. Go back to right hand technique. Just do the muted strings. If you can't get the chords to switch properly, just spend time with the strumming, because when you go into the chord play, again, if you're having problems switching chords, just take 2. You could be the A sus2, move into the D sus2 with the G. You can stay in just the first 2 bars of any of these examples and hang out with those with the chord changes. Likewise, with the A sus2 and the E sus4 chords, those two you can pair together, or you could do E sus4 to D sus2, or you could do D sus2 to G, and just pair things together rather than doing all 4 chords in one shot. Take a measure, elongate it. There's lots of options. You know, once you are comfortable with the chords the way they sound, feel free to just take the score, deviate from what's here, and make your own score, keeping things together in a certain way where you can handle just 2 items rather than trying to do all 4 items. I tried to keep the chord collection not as crazy in terms of moving around, like the D sus2 with the G and the bass to the G. That's something I wanted to kind of keep pretty much the same. That's why it sounds kind of weird, maybe, because it's not the normal fare of chords. I tried to do some chords that you can actually pair with the rhythms easily. You could take just one chord also. You can take the A sus2 in this particular installment and just stay with that through the whole thing. So say if I want to do that for the very beginning, I could just stay with A sus2 and just do beat, or in this case measure 1 over and over again. 2, 3, 4. And that could be what I can do for the entire run of the entire score. And then when I get to measure 6, then measure 10, so I could take one chord and do all the rhythms that are here without changing to another chord. So without changing to the next chord, run the entire score with just one chord, but do all the rhythms. So again, more flexibility can be built in, you know. If you want that challenge of doing the score as is, taking the repeats, all that, it's completely up to you what you want to do. The other part of the chords too is the fretboard view over here, as I'm circling with the mouse. This highlights all the chords, like in the previous installments and other lessons I've put up. I tried to keep the fretboard view in the score so you can see what's highlighted. And you can see all the letters are highlighted, which is a nice feature. Any of these individual chords you can take and run through the entire score, long story long. So there's some good options when you go to play through this. So we covered the chords, we covered some right hand techniques, some ideas for the right hand as you go through, muting strings, just running with the rhythm. One thing I would suggest, as you heard in the very beginning with the click track, right? 2, 3, and 4E, and that click right there, you can use your metronome set to what's playing here is the quarter note, You can let it click off at a chord note pulse, or you can set your metronome to 16th notes if you want to do that as well, because you'll hear that higher pitch in the metronome as beat 1 and then beat 2 and so on. The lower pitches after the first beat would be the remaining 16th notes. So the higher pitch sound you hear in your metronome would be, if you set your notes to 16th notes for the metronome click, you'll hear that first high pitch is beat 1, then E and next one is beat 2, E and so you'll hear different pitches, one being different than the other three. I would definitely recommend using the metronome for this. Or take a few passes through the score without any metronome. That could be something of use as well, which I'm going to play for you to end out this video. I'm going to let the whole thing play through, and you can hear everything. Okay. The other option you have that I want to mention before I let this play out and end the video is the use of a capo. So I'm going to switch out of this for just a sec, go out into the main feed. So I can use a metronome. Yes, I can use a metronome. The capo is the next thing I can do. I could take the chords that are here in the score. Sorry, I'm looking off to the side here. I could take the chords that are in the score and just simply capo up. I could use the capo at 2nd fret, and I can get a whole other batch of chords. And this is very useful if you want to, again, apply what's in the score to something, maybe if you're doing any kind of songwriting. Okay, so you see my capo is at 2nd fret. Totally changes the whole sound of the entire thing. Lots of great options, fantastic stuff. So I want to just offer that to you as well as a way of taking the information and applying it in different ways so that you can actually get into maybe some different sounds. Again, if you're songwriting, all this kind of stuff is great. Getting used to the rhythm is the main thing, getting that 16th note grouping together. You know, it's an even number when you do all 4 of the 16th notes, and if you break up that grouping, you get into the odd numbers, the 3s, okay? And I'll cover more of those 3-note groupings and even some 2-note groupings with 16th notes in the second installment of this particular series on this rhythm, okay? And on that note, I'm going to play the score yet again. is it. So if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and look at the other parts too. I'll include them at the end of this video that you can go, and actually in the description I'll put the other 3 parts of this particular series. I'll put parts 1 through 3 in the description. You can click on that and watch those as well. They cover different rhythms, so that could be very informative to help you with this video. That's the deal. So stay tuned for part 2 of number 4. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful, and feel free to go back to any part you need to and watch it again. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. And if the video presents something of a question, I can actually turn that into another video to further explain any kind of issue that might come up. So thank you very much. We'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.